Well, good morning. Welcome to all of you. We appreciate you taking a few minutes to join us this morning for a conversation on civil dialogue and artificial intelligence and whether or not the government should regulate it. This is another session of our ongoing conversations across campus about how we can teach and engage in civil conversations about controversial issues. My name is John Anderson. I serve here as the Provost and Vice President for Academic Affairs. I'm joined by a number of wonderful colleagues, which we'll introduce in just a minute. I wanted to begin today by talking a little about why we do this. Do you have the opportunity to progress through your experience as a college student, or to serve as an instructor or staff member at SUU, or to serve as one of the members of our community or alumni who are engaged in the institution? We live in a world that is significantly polarized. People avoid conversations that could be helpful, or often talk over issues in which they could slow down and better understand each other. We have the opportunity as an institution not only to transmit knowledge or create knowledge, but we have the opportunity to help you and help each of us understand how we can work together to understand each other better and build ideas because of that understanding. So that is what today is about. We'll talk a lot about artificial intelligence, but the goal is to help us understand a little bit more about civil dialogue. To introduce this topic, I wanted to share this quote about civility. There is a book titled The Civil Tongue by Mr. Kingwell, and he talks at length about how important it is in our modern society to be able to understand and live civilly. He argues that civility is one of the things that makes citizens capable of being just. In fact, it's hard to be fair when you don't understand, and it's hard to understand if you can't speak civilly to each other. I want you to listen to this.
I'm Spencer Cox, Governor of Utah and Chairman of the National Governors Association. You and I probably disagree on a few things, and that's okay. It's actually good for us, but it's way too easy to let our differences become toxic. Our country is deeply divided, and most Americans are tired of the division. Disagreeing better, not disagreeing less, is the answer. When we engage in healthy, honest dialogue, we avoid demonizing others, and we're more likely to find solutions. And I'm not just talking about civility. Being nicer is important, but I'm talking about learning the right kind of conflict. Instead of calling names, be curious. Listen more. Attack ideas, not people. Treating each other with respect and dignity instead of contempt can be hard, and I don't always get it right. But over the next year, I'm hoping we can work together to do better. Democrats and Republicans, liberals, conservatives, and everything in between. Please join us. And remember, nothing is less American than hating our fellow Americans. But harnessing our differences to get things done, that's as American as it gets.
So our governor serves as the chair of that National Governors Council or Association this year, and that's his objective, is to make sure that we understand how we can disagree better and try to infiltrate that across the country. So, and as he said, one thing, if you listened carefully, he was careful to say that it's not just about civility, which is an important statement. Being civil means being kind, being understanding, and those things, but the dialogue is equally important. It means that we don't back away from important conversations, but we approach them with meaning, with intention, and a shared understanding. So civil dialogue is, and this comes out of a book called I'm Just Saying, A Guide to Maintaining Civil Discourse in an Increasingly Divided World. Civil dialogue is the intentional process of engaging in conversations while acknowledging the diversity of opinions and enforcing mutual respect. So civil dialogue begins with a time in which two people or two groups of people or multiple groups of people have a disagreement. They see the world in a different way. They may be opposed to each other, or they may fight over a solution. When a disagreement happens, we really have three options. The first one is to fight. And often in a fight, there's a winner and loser, and at least half the people who fight go away mad or hurt. The other option is just to avert. That means we don't talk about it, we don't engage with each other, we walk away and miss an opportunity for shared understanding. The third option, and that's what we're here to study today, is this opportunity to engage in civil dialogue, when the purpose is understanding, respect, and a shared view of what the possibilities might be. It's different than having winners and losers. It's respecting each other's opinions for what they are. That is what civil dialogue can lead to. So, we're going to talk about civil dialogue in the context of artificial intelligence. I'm going to give you a brief introduction to artificial intelligence with this video.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the latest edition of Tech Talk Daily. I'm your host, Brandon, and we have a groundbreaking story for you today. Imagine a world where even your dental health is revolutionized by artificial intelligence. Well, that world might not be too far away, thanks to the latest development known as the Tom Hanks AI dental plan. In an exciting fusion of Hollywood star power and cutting-edge technology, the beloved actor Tom Hanks has teamed up with leading dental experts to introduce a game-changing AI-driven dental plan. This innovative plan promises to revolutionize the way we approach dental care. With the tagline "Smiles Powered by AI."
So that video was completely generated by AI. The first of this month, Tom Hanks came out on his social media and said, there is a video of me out there promoting a dental plan. I have nothing to do with it. It's not me. And a lot of people, the video, if you've watched it online, looks almost exactly like Tom Hanks speaking. So I went to ChatGPT and said, create a script for this issue related to Tom Hanks and AI in a dental plan. So ChatGPT created a script. I dropped in another AI tool, and it created the news clip you just watched. It's a little rough. You can probably see it's generated by AI. But that is just an introduction to what is coming. You'll notice the text, if you listen carefully, was linking Tom Hanks to the dental plan, which ChatGPT created, which is the exact opposite of what the reality is. And these hallucinations that AI tools often enter into are part of the problem, which introduces our topic today, which is, should the government jump in and regulate AI, and how are we going to manage this piece of AI through the rest of our working life and the rest of our society? So we've welcomed a wonderful panel, Dr. Todd Peterson, Dr. Julie McCown, Mr. Parker Grimes, and Dr. Brandon Wiggins to talk to this idea. So we'll jump straight into AI, but as we're doing that, I invite you to listen carefully to the way they approach the problem, the way they talk about their differences, and I would bet that no one's going to yell, no one's probably going to throw a chair, no one's probably going to avert the conversation. It'll probably be pretty healthy. So if you came for that kind of entertainment, this may not be the place. But we'll go ahead and get our panel started. First, I want to begin by thanking all of you for taking time. And to the audience members and those who are watching online, our colleagues here are incredibly busy. And they've set aside time to prepare for this event and help you understand a little about AI in the civil discourse or civil dialogue. So we're going to begin with just a simple question and ask each of the panelists to introduce themselves, their role on campus, and why they're interested in this subject of AI. So maybe Parker, we could start with you and we'll go down the line.
Okay. Parker Grimes. My title is Director of Administrative Systems. That probably doesn't mean anything to anybody. But what I do is I lead a team of programmers here at SUU. My team of programmers, we're responsible for maintaining the business infrastructure, the computer systems that power this institution. We write software that integrates with that. We do a lot of automation. Anyway, that's what my team does. And my relationship with AI goes back a long ways. So I think we're probably going to hit upon this at some point, but the term AI is a very broad term, right? I would argue that my team has been doing artificial intelligence for at least 10 plus years. We've been doing machine learning, which is a part of AI. So AI is not new. I think what brings us here today is the explosion that burst onto the scene last November with ChatGPT and what has come since then, right? And but a little bit more to that, my relationship with ChatGPT is like this. I learned about ChatGPT. It was really interesting. I thought this has a lot of potential, right? And then, and I'm a programmer by background. I have my undergrad is computer science. I built a career on computer programming. So this world is what I live in. I live in programming. My son came to me last December. He wanted to write a program that would analyze this card matching game that he was playing. And he wanted to automate the card matching game. He wanted to build a program that would play the card matching game automatically. And I'm a programmer, and I told him, I don't even know where to begin with that. It's not in my programming wheelhouse to build such a thing, so I'm not going to help you because I don't know where to start. He came to me a few minutes later and said, I asked ChatGPT to write a program that would play this card matching game, and it came up with something. Can you come look at it? And I sat down, looked at it, and I was like, holy crap, this is a starting point. I know what to do with this. I can go from here. Let's go. So we built from there, and we built a card matching game. We built this system that played this card matching game. Anyway, that was just a brief introduction to generative AI and how it relates to my world. But we're utilizing generative AI tools in our daily work here at SUU. Programming is one of the really good tasks that generative AI can do. So I'm excited about that future.
Thank you, Parker. Julie?
Right. I'm Julie McCown. I'm an associate professor in the English department. I've been at SUU since 2017. My interest in AI partly stems from my background. I have a background in digital humanities and also in post-humanist theory, which is a school of theory that's very deeply invested in issues about AI, particularly when it comes to how we understand what it means to be human and how we define the human against non-human entities like machines, like AI. And so I had that kind of existing scholarly interest, and then when ChatGPT came on the scene, I started engaging with it on my own, and it just kind of really excited me and energized me. It was sort of serendipitous. I was looking for a new research project to throw myself into, and this spoke to my scholarly interests, and it had a very practical element when I thought about how this was going to change writing instruction, because I've been teaching writing for, I think, 13 years now, and it dawned on me, oh, this is going to change the way I do my job. So over the summer, I started work on a scholarly book about sort of theorizing about large language models, LLMs, how they impact higher education, and specifically how we can integrate them into writing classes. And sort of generally my approach to AI, or generative AI, I like to describe it as being defiantly optimistic. Not naively optimistic, but defiantly optimistic. So I reject a lot of the cynicism and doomerism that comes in discussions of AI. I tend to reject that in favor of a more sort of radical openness and inclusive way of thinking about AI. So.
Thank you very much, Julie. Todd?
Hi, my name is Todd Peterson. I'm a professor of English. Part of my life is, I would say, one leg is standing in the teaching of our creative writing classes, and the other leg is over in our filmmaking BFA. So if you kind of know what's going on in the world, particularly on the legal front, in the area of AI, each of those legs is pulling further apart from the other, and so it hurts right in the middle. And that's, I think, where my interest in AI comes. You probably are aware that the Writers Guild of America, that represents screen and television writers, just got done striking, and they struck for a very long time. And one of the things that was of a central issue to them was AI use in their profession. They were fearing perhaps the future loss income, of revenue, of being able to work, because what they're saying openly is we can replace you. The reason the actors are still striking is because their contracts are saying we want to use your voices and images just like we saw up on that. So that's part of what I've been keeping my eyes on, because I feel it's really important to help teach my students, like, what kind of world are you going to go into? And then also what pre-negotiated contracts according to your union are going to be out there. You need to be aware of those so that we work here in a way that's congruent with that. The Authors Guild, which is the guild that I'm a member of as a novelist, oh, they're pretty mad. As you probably know, there's a number of large-scale class action lawsuits because those writers have said, wait a minute, we've been stolen from. And people go, well, how have you been stolen from? And it's like, open the front cover of your books and it says, all rights reserved. You may not reproduce any of this book in part or whatever without express permission. And the 183,000 books that were in the book 3 training session didn't follow those instructions. So that's copyright infringement. And some people, like Stephen King, maybe you've heard of him, I would think that in the world, if you were going to be getting sued, you would not want to be sued by Stephen King or any of the other people that were doing this. And so when we start talking about regulation, one of the things that I've been thinking about that's important is there has been no regulation really so far. People are saying internationally this is an unregulated AI arms race. And what we're seeing as a consequence is strikes and class action lawsuits and the Copyright Office and all other kinds of legal entities scrambling right now really quickly to find out what the rules are going to be. And so, yeah, my interest in the regulation is, oh, we're watching what happens when there isn't any. And do we like that world of nobody's making my TV show that I love so much because of these questions that are on the table?
Thank you, Todd. Brandon?
I'm Brandon Wiggins. I teach over in physics. My involvement with AI goes back a little ways. At my previous employment, I used AI or ML to do a lot of large data set analysis, that type of thing. And it makes work really easy. Those that have used it, not easy, but tractable, perhaps, and that's kind of an important thing. And those that have used it know it's magical. It was that way, always has been that way. A lot of my positions about AI, I think, are defiantly fear-based, so like going against kind of the grain here. No, I think that there's a lot of magic that seems to be in AI. A lot of my apprehensions are about sort of the long-term applications, sort of the type of society we want to build, and sort of the broad stroke impacts that it'll have on society. I think that AI is a great tool. I don't know if it's a great toy, and I'll kind of unpack that a little bit. And I think in society right now, that's kind of the way it's viewed, as a new glitzy toy we can play with. But there are huge implications for this. And I used to work a little bit in the nuclear weapons industry, and it feels to me, and I haven't lived long enough, right? I'm not any type of historian, Ryan. But it feels to me that the advent of AI kind of feels on the order seismically as, say, the invention of the atomic bomb, at least on an international scale. And so I think we need to be intentional in our discussion. I think we need to be granular in our language and very precise about what we're talking about. We need to be intentional in what we want this to do, what we don't want it to do. And then we need to go about and set appropriate bounds on this thing.
Thank you, Brandon. And for those of you who are new to AI, maybe we could take a few minutes and just define some of the terms that we've used. So would one of you, let's talk about just some general definitions of artificial intelligence, and then generative AI, which is kind of a subcategory, and then somebody tell me what LLM means. That term is thrown out all the time, these large language models, and somebody describe what that means. So AI, generative AI, and LLM. Who'd like to jump in?
I would be happy to jump in here.
Thank you.
Because I think this is relevant to Todd's concern. And there are existing legal cases that have set a precedence here. So, all right, so LLM stands for Large Language Model. So basically what an LLM is that they take a huge data set of human written text, right? In all kinds of forms. It could be books, could be stuff they scraped from the internet, all over the place, right? So human written text, and they train this model. And really the way it works, so they sometimes just describe it as a neural network. Now, I learned in my psychology class that the way human memory works is sort of by word association. You know, you have a memory, and that memory sort of is related to some other things. When you start thinking of that memory, it starts triggering other aspects of other memories, and things just start to light up in your brain, right? That's kind of why they call these LLMs neural networks, because that's kind of how they work. They're built on this idea of vector-based representations of words. So you've basically got this big model where all these words have been taken and they've been turned into numbers. Now, if you don't know what a vector is just a set of numbers in an array, like I don't know a better way to describe that. But
And it's huge, right?
Yeah.
There's like thousands and thousands of numbers
yeah.
in this array.
And like every phrase or word is represented by these very large multi-dimensional arrays of numbers. So it's not that you could reach into one of these LLMs and say, there's Stephen King's book right there. That's not how it works. It's all of those words were used to train the model, and that word was related to that word, and that word's related to that word, and that's how they work. So these LLMs are just sophisticated prediction engines. So it's, to simplify it, you basically got, this is one word, what's the most likely next word? And then it just keeps doing that, right? So you literally cannot just reach into the LLM and say, hey, pull me out Todd's book or Stephen King's book or even a passage from a book. It's just a prediction engine that's all represented by these vector numbers. Now, I'll also throw out there that there was a case with the Writers Guild against Google that was settled years ago. And it was Google scraped the entire content of copyrighted books, right? And the Writers Guild was like, hey, Google, you stole our content. You stole our books. And the court sided on the side of Google. The court said, Google, this is fair use. So that's, and that's going to be one of my sort of stances here, is that regulation already exists, right? We already have laws about copyright. We already have laws about ethics and discrimination. And it's not that we need more regulation. And AI is not new. So what we need is to just apply the existing laws and regulations and let that work its way through our system. You know, we live in the United States of America, and we have a system that includes laws and court process, and there will be, and there are court cases that will work this stuff out, and there have been in the past. There have been many landmark cases about copyright, and those have shaped the future of what future lawsuits look like. And I think that that's going to continue. And the danger of trying to over-regulate is that we may, I think Todd and I agree on this point, that we may be in a hype cycle about AI right now. And we're on this curve, and in 6 months it's going to be not as exciting as it is right now. It may not. It may continue to keep evolving and progressing and getting better and better. We could argue that. But anyway, the point is there already exist laws about this kind of stuff, and regulation exists. We just need to apply that. And if we try to over-regulate things, we're going to miss the mark. Like, AI's moving. I think we can all agree on that. It's moving quickly. And if we try and regulate things as they are now, by the time regulation gets through the whole process, they're going to miss the mark. And I've got more to say about that later.
Can I jump in real quick and say, hey, you guys, this is why general education is so important. here we got a computer programmer talking about his psychology class and then talking about like sets and arrays of numbers, and that's how people get to be smart like Parker. Is there, oh, the provost is here. Gen Ed.
Good point, the Gen Ed for sure. Very important. Thank you, Parker. So you have put down your stance as to whether or not the government should regulate AI, and let me try to summarize that, and you correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay.
And that is, you're saying we already have laws in place, we already have processes to adjudicate such things, we just leave it alone, let it play itself out, and the courts will take care of it eventually.
That's part of the process, yes. And I think we need to be careful about what we mean by regulation, right? I think Brandon has got an argument about international regulation, and there's certainly an argument to be made that if the United States over-regulates things and we aren't as competitive on the global market as other countries, we could put ourselves in a really sticky situation internationally. But yeah, what do we mean by regulation? You know, that's one of my big questions here on this panel.
Let's open that question up. What do we mean by regulation?
Could I jump in?
Please.
Is that okay? So there's this quote. It's actually by you, Provost. I'm going to read it here. This is good.
This
Yeah,
could be
so-
trouble.
AI has a lot of potential to help us to reach out and do different things. The real key is to leverage the best of what we can do with technology, but never lose sight of the fact that our students need personal interaction, they need to feel supported, they need to be successful. And so, as we evaluate what we're trying to accomplish with a student and how we're going to best serve them, AI might be one component that helps us do that, but it would never replace a faculty member. It won't replace the one-on-one interaction. And so I find it's finding that balance of how we best serve students, and we need to decide to what extent, if any, we want AI to be part of that mix. Do you remember saying that? Remember when you said that?
Vaguely.
He actually didn't. That's AI generated.
Oh, snap!
There you
In
go.
his own voice, though. So this is the thing, is I took an LLM down from OpenAI. I fine-tuned it on a single podcast that Provost Anderson gave with Steve Meredith and Scott Wyatt. It learned the cadence of his voice within an hour. And that model's destroyed, so AI John will not take over the world. But what happened as sort of a result of that is, to my knowledge, what I could have done there might be illegal because that podcast is copyright. You know, like, and here in this setting here, this is academic, probably fair use if John's lawyers come after me, which they might. But to right now, copyright law doesn't allow you to easily copyright one's own voice, right, or one's likeness. There are discussions about that, I think, that are ongoing sort of in the AI community and things like that. But copyright law right now didn't anticipate that there would be these things that you could train in an hour, and it sounds like Taylor Swift singing, right? And so I don't know if, to Parker's point, I don't know if it's more regulation or more guidance or more clarity on these points needs to be sort of fleshed out. What is IP? What is original material? What is copyright and what is not? But I think these problems are now in our lap, and we're going to be forced to deal with them rather fast.
Let me also offer a clarification. Copyright, as it's in the law and even in our own university's intellectual property policy, stipulates it has to be in a tangible form. So ideas can't be copyrighted, but once they're fixed, they are. And these processes of training AI, the debate may be on the table, is that actually taking things out of the ether and then putting them in a fixed form? But then it can also create heretofore unrealized fixed forms of things which were not created by the original creator. And so our existing structures sort of dissolve a little bit as we do this, because again, I didn't say that.
Yeah, and whether or not what I did was legal, can we agree that was unethical, right? I can't go around and still people's voices that aren't mine. That's a voice is a very precious thing, right?
Because you could get the provost to be giving you a raise.
Yeah.
But he did not give
Why
you.
was I thinking?
Yeah. Brandon, take that to the budget office and see how that goes. Well, it's interesting. So let's talk about, let's return to one topic we haven't defined yet, and that is generative AI. How is generative AI different from AI or LLM? Does anybody want to take that question?
Well, an LLM is a form of generative AI, correct? So,
Just
so
umbrella terms, essentially.
yeah. So generative AI could apply to image generation, text generation, code generation, those types of things. And that's the thing I think that we've seen explode over the last couple of months in capability. But LLMs are a subset. Image generation is a subset of this broader generative term that's, this is the exciting AI stuff that everyone likes.
Well, I think it's important, though, because kind of going to what Brandon was saying, like whether we need to focus on these sort of definitions and guidelines rather than policies and regulations. And then, I was thinking when Parker was describing what LLMs are, it reminds me there's a lot of kind of public uncertainty about what an LLM is. Like people want to treat it like a search engine or an encyclopedia, and that's not how it functions. Or like one of the pet peeves I have is when people describe an LLM as a plagiarism machine, when it's like, unless we expand the definition of what plagiarism is, it's not a plagiarism machine. And so I think when we have these sort of misunderstandings or different narratives about what the problem is with AI, that's going to lead to potentially wildly different policy recommendations. Because this is something, I think it's in his book on AI ethics, Mark Kuckelberg even mentions that's an important thing to take into account with policymaking on AI, is making sure, like figuring out what the definition is of the problem, how we're defining AI, because that's then going to shape the kind of policy. And I think that's part of, for me, I'm, a little bit, I think there does need to be policies and regulations on AI, but I urge a lot of caution and restraint, because for a lot of people, generative AI, LLMs, it's brand new information. Even though it's an old field, it's been around for a while. For a lot of people, they're just now learning about it. And there's a lot of knee-jerk, reactionary, fear-based thinking that I think can quickly lead to bad policy decisions.
I think that's an important point to hit on, is that the people that will, if we're talking about regulation at the level of Congress, right? Like, I think that's kind of one of the implied meanings of we need to regulate AI. We're asking Congress to regulate AI by passing broad laws that govern the use of AI or how big training models can be, et cetera. My confidence with our politicians to understand AI.
Well, and right now they're being taught by the tech CEOs. It's like Sam Altman is going and meeting with Congress members and teaching them about AI, and it's probably so that any regulations will fall in the tech company's favor, not necessarily for public good.
That is exactly right. And that's another point I wanted to make about my stance about regulation. We need to be really careful about it. Now, I'm not saying no regulation, right? I'm saying we need to be super cautious about regulation because of this very thing. Like Congress, I don't have any confidence that they would understand the technology in order to effectively write regulation or laws around it. So, like Julie said, they're going to be guided by these big companies like OpenAI. So Sam Altman is the CEO of OpenAI, and some of you may have heard that he went before Congress recently and said, yes, regulate us, please. I'm asking Congress to regulate AI. Now, why do you think Sam Altman would do such a thing? Why do you think he would go before Congress and say, yes, regulate us? Because that gives him the front seat to drive policy. Now, this is not tinfoil hat stuff, but the way our government works is that a lot of policy is driven by, what are they called?
It's called regulatory capture is what it's
called.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Lobby groups.
Lobby groups, yeah, that's the term I was looking for. By lobbyists, right? Lobbyists hold a lot of power. They, in many cases, will write a law and just sit it on a congressman's desk and say, here you go, we've written this, and who do you think it favors? It favors the big tech companies, right? So big sweeping regulation like that only favors the incumbents. And so one of my arguments is that, yes, there's lots of problems with AI. There's lots of ethical concerns. There's lots of copyright concerns. There's lots of issues around AI in general. And we need more minds working on this. We need more competition. And by regulating it, what you do is you favor the incumbents, you favor the big players in the field, and then it sort of stifles competition. And I'm excited about all the research that is happening right now about AI. There's so much awesome stuff happening around all of these problems that exist with AI. And I want to see that fostered and developed further, that competition. And regulation, in my mind, is going to just make it harder for those types of people to get into the field, to play in the field, to expand, to do their research.
Let me offer another perspective. ChatGPT this summer costs $700,000 a day just to keep the lights on. So just start letting that money add up. And since I was just a little tiny baby during Watergate, but I'm a film professor, so I think about things like All the President's Men, whatever. Follow the money. If it costs $700,000 a day to run, and right now a lot of people are just using these kinds of tools without kind of paying into them, there's money somewhere. So I'm very interested in the middle of all this to think about where the money is coming from. And here's another fact. I think we're talking about regulating and what are we going to regulate. One of the things that we might need to think of, what's the impact of the computing power that it takes to run this service, which isn't necessary, right? It doesn't, it makes things kind of easier, maybe cheaper, which is why businesses like it. But a data center in Iowa, in the third year of a really significant drought, took the water usage up 37% just to do the computing power for ChatGPT. So I wonder if it gets to, is it a good toy? Perhaps we're using a lot of a really important kind of central resource to make AI work, and it might be at the expense of being able to grow crops. And so I think that as we let the discussion go out, we need to think about, hey, look, we're absolutely in the middle of a climate crisis of some kind. We're kind of seeing that, and we're in a situation where we might need our water, and we might not need it for some of these other kinds of things. I think that those are important large-scale discussions where Sam Altman or Bill Gates, because it was a Microsoft-based computing center, they may be advocating for their own benefit, but we need to have equal level voices advocating for this other thing. A lot of under the hood stuff is going on. Yes, computers train large language models, but so do human beings. And oftentimes those jobs are in developing countries, like $2 an hour. Women of color are in there analyzing these phrases to make sure that the models are working. And they're kind of put up with all the garbage of the internet to make sure that the large language models don't spill out like porn and filth. And so when we use those tools, we have to be saying to ourselves, I'm okay with those people doing that so that I can do my job a little faster or cheaper or easier or make something funny with ChatGPT. So I think as we start thinking about regulation, it may not just be regulate the outputs of AI, but we might have to regulate the inputs. Because I do think that as a general rule, we kind of want to be decent human beings and not like destroy things in the midst. And we have lots of great history, don't we, historians, of where we said, this is great, we can make fabric quicker and faster, we'll kill a few kids, big deal, that's progress, get out of the way. We can build railroads, we'll just take the Chinese people and other immigrants and we'll work them to death and we'll be harmful to them. Quit getting in the way of progress. I do think that as educated people, we should be super wise about the mistakes we made in the past and fold them into the decisions that we're making now or going into the future so that we don't go later, oopsie, we developed this really great tool and now a whole bunch of people are out of work and the economy collapses because they can't buy electronic products, et cetera, et cetera. Is it kind of clear where I stand on this? I don't know.
Thank you, very clear. Well, it's interesting to listen because I think what you're saying, Parker, is that there needs to be some slow development of regulation, but it needs to be very, very thoughtful. Yet, as Todd's suggesting, and this is a point of disagreement, it's interesting to watch them talk civilly about it, but there are massive societal impacts to what's going on now. And in 2021, Google spent about 10 to 15% of their total energy consumption just on AI. And if you look at the societal impacts of energy consumption, water use, and all of the things that create energy, that's a whole separate side of the regulation which we need to discuss and talk about. So from your perspective, the four of you that are here, there's part of it, we need to wait to let it develop, and a lot of people, great minds working on it. We also have some serious problems now. What is your recommendation? What do you think we should do next? Should the government step in, and if so, where?
Well, a lot of those concerns are not necessarily unique to AI, right? AI may have accelerated aspects of the problem of energy use and other things, but social media in general has been relying on these employees in third world countries dealing with the garbage of the internet for a very long time. That was not new to AI. So, I mean, that's sort of my...
Yeah, and it's not going to stop till we wise up, to quote Amy Mann.
Yeah.
I think that because a lot of these things, exactly like you're saying, have been long-standing, what we haven't done as a society is step in and say, all right, enough's enough. This is doing a lot of harm. And there's a sense of manifest destiny about AI that it's like to say that we want to, like, hey, let's put on the brakes, let's slow this down, is saying, why do you hate technology? Why do you hate innovation? And it's like, that maybe is framing it as the wrong question. I actually like people, and so I want to start there because all this innovation is ostensibly meant to support people. But it gets back into this idea of maybe actually all of this innovation is to support capital, which wants to grow, or to say it more in like a kid voice, I'm figuring on biggering and biggering and biggering without asking a really important question about like, well, why, and to what end, and to what effect?
And going back to the idea of this, we may be in a hype cycle, right? Like this energy usage could be a spike in this hype cycle. Because where I see all of the innovation happening right now is in the open source world, and that is, being able to train smaller data sets. I mean, arguably, these ginormous energy consumption problems and sucking in copyrighted content and relying on third world moderators is unique to the nature of these huge big tech companies and the large models they're trying to train. Well, the real future of LLMs and generative AI really probably lies in smaller models that were trained on ethically sourced data sets, even proprietary data sets, private data sets of companies. That's really where I see AI in this space going and where all the innovation is going to happen. Google famously said, we have no moat when it comes to generative AI. What they mean is that while they were fighting with OpenAI for dominance of the largest, biggest, fanciest LLM, the open source world was eating their lunch around them. They were the ones doing the innovating, building all these smaller models that basically you could run privately yourself with a fraction of the compute resources and get precisely the information that you want instead of relying on these big energy consuming machines.
Thank you. Brandon, did you have something?
No, I was just going to say that the issue is confounded further by the geopolitical stage, right? There's certain entities, states, countries, or whatever, who will not be putting on the brakes on their development of AI. There are certain countries who want to achieve technological supremacy within the next little while, and they'll be relying on AI to do that. So if and when that discussion happens regarding regulation, I think we need to be surgical in how we do that and do it in such a way that the United States, right, remains competitive on the
Paging Dr. Oppenheimer.
Sorry.
Brad, I think that's a really good point. And I will note that the video I created earlier was created by a Chinese website, all generated by AI, which was accessible within the United States. So even if the United States decided to regulate, we have limits. We We have country parameters, and there's not all that we can do. Well, this has been a very stimulating conversation. Thanks to each of you. For the students who are here, you've got a great panel here that's well-informed. Let's ask each of you to give your 10-second advice to students who may think their professors don't know anything about their use of ChatGPT, kind of the unspoken word that's out there. What advice would you give to students as they navigate AI and prepare for their careers as we finish up this panel? Anna, go ahead.
I'll just go ahead and start. Don't use AI for something that you can't do yourself, if I can say that way. So if you're learning to code, for example, you should be learning to code. AI is a great tool after the fact, right, to learn how to get a patch of code quickly, right, that you could generate yourself. Tracking down bugs in ChatGPT code is the devil, right? So if you don't have any idea what it's doing, that's kind of a thing. But that goes for things like writing as well, and content creation related to your class. Learn the techniques. You need to learn what good writing is and what bad writing is. And if you've read enough ChatGPT, it's rather, what would you say, Todd? Yeah, it's not, it kind of grinds on you after a little while. And so I think AI is a great tool after you've achieved mastery in a skill to be able to reproduce or get a starting point on a particular deliverable that involves a skill set you've already mastered. Does that sort of make sense? Right. So you don't want to generate from nothing.
Thanks, Brandon. Any other final quick comments?
I'd say, like, in terms of like the students using AI, transparency and disclosure is key. I let my students use AI, but I have very clear, strict rules about how they have to disclose and talk about how they're using it. And my other thing is I would encourage students to experiment with it and play with it, and not just play with ChatGPT, play with Claude, play with other models, because they'll give you a lot of different results. And also to collaborate with it. Don't just get stuck in this model of what can it do for me, how can I get it to automate stuff for me, because that's not going to be really productive. If you actually try to collaborate with it, work with it, converse with it, that's where it's going to yield really interesting, fascinating, and I think creative results.
Thanks.
And I would say, don't expect anybody to bother to read something you didn't bother to write. I mean, straight up. You're creating some efficiencies, and so you can say write or create or whatever. People aren't going to pay attention to something that you just sort of wanted to scoot out of the way. And think of that. Also, you need to know the rules of your game. So whatever profession you're going into, it's really important to me to think about how college can help people professionalize. If your company is like, don't you dare put any company information, and some companies are doing that. Don't put any of our company information into this because they believe that AI, and I think so too, is part of a surveillance economy. It's watching us, and you're putting sensitive data out there, whether it's in this huge aggregate thing. So know the rules. If you're going to be a screenwriter, know the Writers Guild rules, because you will have to abide by them. And if you're going to try to sell stuff, follow copyright, because if you use AI to make stuff, guess what you can't do right now? Copyright it, which means you can't sell it because you don't have the rights to it. And so it might make your job easy on the front end, but then later, if you want to get remunerated, you will not. You will get demunerated, or whatever the word is. So be careful at the long-term use of what you're really after and what you're doing. Because again, these disclosures that Dr. McCown was talking about, they're happening with agents as well. Like, you have to disclose every single part because we have to know what we can sell and what we can copyright and what the client can have and not. So know those rules. And hopefully one of the things your faculty members would do was to help learn the rules of the professions that our majors lead into so that they can guide you wisely.
And writing is one of those higher order level skills, right? I think that these generative AI tools, no matter how sophisticated they're going to get, they're not going to replace human creativity.
No.
Like, the written word is one of the highest forms of creativity that us humans can come up with. And I strongly believe in that. Just asking ChatGPT to generate your essay is just, it's a terrible
It doesn't work.
idea, right?
I've tried it. It doesn't work. You have to have the human interacting with it to have good results.
Yeah, and I agree that it can be an excellent starting point, like an idea generation, like the story with my son, and he asked it to generate a program. That program was crap. It didn't actually do what it was supposed to do, but it was a starting point.
That's a great way to finish. Thank you so much to the panelists. And thank you. I think what you observed today was a very civil dialogue about some challenging subjects. And I hope you took from this the ability for you to do the same thing in your spheres of influence. So thank you so much for joining us today. And let's give our panelists a warm appreciation.